Vikes Now. I am Dustin Baker. We are about a week away from Vikings training camp. Excuse me. We have a first-time guest from FTN Fantasy, Aaron Schatz. He also does ESPN Plus work, and he's got a really sweet almanac that just came out. It's fantastic. It's like over 400 pages. How are you, Aaron?
I'm good. Yes, FTN Football Almanac 2024. Believe it or not, this is the 20th preseason book that I've done with this staff. Yep.
Wow. When do you start it? I'm morbidly curious. When do you start writing that thing?
Like May.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, after the draft.
And it must consume your everything.
Couple months.
It's so comprehensive. That's fantastic. All right. Let's see. So we're gonna get into some Vikings themed stuff. First of all, where do we find you on Twitter? What's your handle?
Schatz NFL. ASCHATZ NFL on both Twitter and Threads.
Perfect. All right. Well, we're going to talk about the Vikings because their training camp for rookies anyhow starts next Sunday. But what I'd like for you to do for Yannick and I are ultra familiar with DVOA, but I want to hear it from your lips in layperson's terms. What is DVOA?
Yeah, the basic idea is to look at football performance, filtering out context. So what we do is we to determine success on every play based on the down and distance, and we compare it to a league average baseline that is adjusted for situation and opponent.
Okay, perfect. And when did that stat get off the ground?
My old website, which was called Football Outsiders, we started it in 2003. So I've been doing this for 21 years.
Okay, yeah. All right, sweet. Well, it's got some backbone then. Yannick, I'm going to kick it to you. What do you got for Aaron?
So I want to talk about the 2022 Vikings.
One of the controversial team. Yes.
Yeah. So I've been following your Twitter feed, and you tweeted a lot about that season because it was a crazy outlier. 13-4. They ranked 28th in DVOA. Did you change some of your metrics to adjust for that after the season?
I changed some of my metrics after that year, and I think it raised the Vikings slightly, but not much. It was just a crazy, ridiculous outlier year. There are a couple of Indianapolis Colts years that are somewhat similar. I think the first Andrew Luck year, they're like 22nd or something, even though they made the playoffs. But that Vikings year really stands out as a year where they just were lucky in so many ways and won so many just really close games. And then in other games, they would get slaughtered. And so they had all these close wins with big losses. And it's just a really strange combination. It was a really strange year. I mean, more power to Kevin O'Connell, because when you differentiate from expectation like that, some of it is luck, but some of it is coaching. So, I mean, they pulled it off, man.
Yeah, it was really crazy because they started out hot in some games and they then completely disappeared for 2 quarters and then turned it back on in the fourth. And it suddenly.
That Colts game is legendary. Whatever it was before Christmas. I think of it as the Christmas game because it was the day of my girlfriend's office Christmas party, but that was not on Christmas.
Yeah, Yannick and I were both there. I couldn't believe it. That was Yannick's first game at US Bank Stadium, so what an introduction. Did you change the formula, and then as a byproduct of that, the Vikings went up a little bit, or did you go reevaluate it because the Vikings were so weird?
No, it was a byproduct of some other changes that I was already making to try to improve everything, try to improve every year. Made turnovers a little less important. Counted aborted snaps as their own thing rather than as passes or runs, and a few other changes.
Okay. The first thing I've got for you after reading the Viking section of the Almanac is the quarterback mystery between Sam Darnold, Nick Mullins, J.J. McCarthy. That's the first time the Vikings have had a quarterback mystery since about 2014. Is that the only thing separating the Vikings from being considered like a fringe wildcard team this year?
I think the answer is yes, not because of the mystery, but because of who's involved in the mystery. You have a guy with a bad track record. You have a guy with a very clearly backup track record in Mullins. Mm-hmm. And then you have a rookie. And you can't expect rookie quarterbacks to be good. That's why, for example, we have Chicago much lower than conventional wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
because even when you put good stuff around them, you just cannot expect a rookie quarterback to be good. You want them to be good. You want them to at least improve over time into being good, but you can't expect it. And so that is certainly, I think I did Minnesota with like half Darnold and half McCarthy as the quarterback in the quarterback variable. I did the same thing with New England with Brissett and Drake May. And yeah, it means you can't expect a good performance necessarily out of the quarterback. I mean, obviously they've got a good offensive line. They've got the best receiver of the game. But yeah, I mean, if they had last year's offense, they'd be a wild card contender, sure. Yeah.
Okay. And then whether it's pre-draft or post-draft, where were you on McCarthy? Are you high, low, or in the middle?
I mean, he came out okay in our projection system that we do for quarterbacks, which is called Cubase. I think I had a little bit of a subjective fear that he was a little bit like Mac Jones, like a guy who may have been carried by the team that he was with, having so much talent around him. But it's not like he had great receivers that got drafted high or anything like that. So, I mean, I think he probably got drafted in the right place. Like, I think that he makes absolute sense as the 10th pick in the draft for a team that needed a quarterback, and the Vikings did the right thing and took him in the right place, and it seems to make a lot of sense to me.
It sounds like if the trade up the board that the Vikings were kind of encapsulated for a month or two, if they would have done that for McCarthy, you probably would have been thinking that's a no-go.
Yeah, although, you trade up for quarterbacks. If they traded up to 7 or 8 and taken him, I would have still felt like it was. I mean, I'll be honest, as a Patriots fan, I wanted them to take May, not McCarthy.
Okay.
Right? So just to put that out there, I felt like what people feel is a higher ceiling for May being younger. Like that's what I wanted, but it doesn't mean drafting McCarthy with the 10th pick is a bad move just because I preferred Drake May third.
Well, you're in very safe territory because the other two guys on this show right now were Drake May guys. And we were hoping the Patriots would do business with the Vikings, no matter the price, to get May. So we get it. We get it, sir. Yannick, what do you got next for Aaron Schatz?
So I want to continue the quarterback talk. You've seen Sam Darnold for 6 years now. You alluded to maybe bad track record as a starter. He's a low-end starter at best, I guess. And sometimes you don't even want him on the field. In Minnesota's offense, do you project some improvement, throwing to Jefferson, and let's say offensive line is decent? So what are your expectations for him?
Yeah, I would think that if Darnold is the starter, that he will. He had like a 3-game run in Carolina a year or two ago where he actually was really good randomly. I think that's kind of random, but I don't think he'll be as bad as he was with the Jets. First of all, like we all need to acknowledge there is this trend, and it's a statistical trend, that guys who come out of the McVay-Shanahan system, those offenses are better. And he has the best receiver in the game. So, I mean, is Darnold going to be a better performance? Yeah. I would say if Darnold is the starter, you can expect it to be better than certainly what he did with all those years with the Jets. We have the Vikings projected as the number 21 offense. And I think that shows certainly improved quarterback play over Darnold's past.
What it just got me thinking about, how do you think Kirk fits in Atlanta?
I worry a little bit about him coming back from the Achilles.
Okay.
At that age. So our projection for Atlanta is not, and he's learning a new system, and our projection for Atlanta is not as high as conventional wisdom. We have New Orleans higher and Atlanta lower compared to conventional wisdom. And that's not a statement about what would have happened if Cousins had stayed in Minnesota, but he's on a new team with a new system. And I do worry about both him and Rodgers coming back from the Achilles. I think that the range of possibilities is pretty high for both guys.
Another thing worth noting on Cousins is his worst season as a Viking was 2018, the first year statistically, and then down the stretch of the season, the team and he didn't perform like most thought, and that kind of soured the first impression because he was so handsomely paid at the time. So, in addition to the natural fears about Achilles, the only thing that has me thinking that it won't click in Atlanta is Cousins takes time to acclimate and study an offense, and we saw it loud and clear with the Vikings in 2018. Deep in the heart of your almanac, you go through like play formation, and I noticed that there was a statistic that said the Vikings, 66% of their plays were with 3 wide receiver personnel. Well, the Vikings have a WR3 battle afoot with some somewhat underwhelming combatants and Brandon Powell and Jalen Naylor and Trent Sherfield. So I want to know, in your estimation, if this isn't too in the minutia of, Vikingsville, who will win that battle, and is that man currently on the roster?
Oh, shoot, man. I have no idea. Because the differences between none of those guys stand out and make you go, that's the guy, right? Like, I mean, Powell doesn't have much of a track record. Sherfield's got a track record, but it's fine. It's a lot of fine. It's clearly a hole on the team. And I don't know what would be out there that would be better. Like, I don't know what would be available that would be better unless they want to go sign Michael Thomas or something. And he's healthy, which who knows. So yeah, that's just a weakness of the team. I have no idea who would win that battle. I guess if you made me have to pick, I'd pick Sherfield.
Okay. Yeah, it's like I said, it might be a little bit too in the minutia for somebody who doesn't follow the Vikings as intently as we do. But it did, when I saw that they run that much, you would think that wouldn't be a spot that...
I mean, every team in the NFL does. The fact is, almost every team in the NFL, 11 personnel is their biggest personnel group. I mean, it's their most common personnel group.
Okay. All right, Yannick, a couple more for Aaron. What do you got?
So we've talked a lot about the offense now. Want to flip over to the defense. They ranked 11th last year in DVOA, and in multiple DVOA categories, they ranked around 10, 11, 12. They made a lot of changes. The whole pass rush group is gone and replaced by Grenard, Van Ginkel, and Turner. Cashman replacing Hicks at linebacker. Shaq Griffin was signed to play cornerback and probably giving the team a nice baseline of at least average play. What do you expect the team to look like on the defensive side?
With the idea that defense is harder to project than offense, I'll say our projection is for them to be about exactly average. But this will be an average defense. And I mean, I think, Cashman versus Hicks, I don't know whether that's a real change. Greenard and Van Ginkel versus whatever. I think there's no one as good as Hunter, but now there's more depth. I know that based on our projection system, drafting a defensive guy high has more immediate results than drafting an offensive guy high. So that's good for taking Turner. Jerry Tillery is listed on our lads as a starter. That's not a good thing. Shaq Griffin doesn't seem special to me in any way, but he doesn't seem particularly bad either. It just seems pretty average.
If it was 11th last year, and do you just think that they'll have continuity with Brian Flores? Do you just think that the loss of Hunter was too damning?
Yeah, I'd have to look up. I don't have in front of me the projections to what every variable does. I don't remember where they were in takeaways. It might be if they were high in takeaways last year. That might be part of it. Is a little bit of regression, because I don't think the variable that measures talent in out, I think comes out basically to zero.
Okay.
Like, I don't think it thinks that they lost talent.
Okay.
Because, again, Hunter gone, but Greenard and Van Ginkel and Turner in, that doesn't feel like a loss of talent in any way. I think it's maybe just general regression to the mean. I don't know if they had a lot of takeaways last year.
Yeah, the Vikings defense was an odyssey. For the first 3 or 4 weeks, it was flat out no good. And then it got...
Here's the craziest thing about the Vikings defense last year, just to bring it on. They sucked when they blitzed, which they did more than anyone else. It's really weird. Like, they also rushed 3 more than anyone else, and they were good when they rushed 3, but they were much better when they rushed 4 than when they rushed 5 or 6, even though they rushed 5 or 6 a ton. That is weird. I do not know if that continues this year. I don't know how you respond to that. If your strategy is to blitz and you're not as good blitzing as you are otherwise, it's a very strange stat.
Yeah, they'll have to figure it out because that's Brian Flores' MO.
Yeah.
So they were awful out of the gate. They got really good in the guts of the season, like weeks 4 to 14, and then they utterly collapsed, starting with the game at the Bengals and never recovered. So we shall see which rendition of the Vikings defense shows up this year. Let's talk about the ground game, which is kind of a dirty little secret of Kevin O'Connell's offense. In 2022, via your metric, they ranked 27th per DVOA. And they vowed at this time last year, baby, we're going to improve that. Damn it. We're going to get a tight end and Josh Oliver. We think Alexander Madison could be the real deal. We're keeping CJ Ham. And then at the end of the season, they ranked 27th again, the exact same spot. So now they've opted to sign Aaron Jones for 1 year. I think Ty Chandler will get more carries than most expect, and maybe Cam Akers will be back. Do you think that they can improve this ranking with Aaron Jones in the house to the middle of the pack?
I mean, in part because regression to the mean is likely. I think they would likely rank better than 27th, and there's good up blocking on the offensive line. But the same thing I say with a lot of interviews with a lot of team podcasts is there are very few running backs in the league who really move the needle either positively or negatively. And Jones is good and particularly good as a receiver, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as a runner, he just seems like, he's there, and let's see what kind of blocking he gets. But he's not like Christian McCaffrey or something. So he doesn't seriously move the needle. But Madison was pretty bad last year, so Jones should be better than that. So if they get blocking, I would think their running game will be better.
When you say that running backs don't usually move the needle or in general, do you mean that it's a product of the play calling and the offensive line more so?
A lot of it is, I mean, rushing has a lot more to do with the offensive line than I think people generally realize. Because the running backs get the stats, but the offensive linemen make the holes.
Okay. All right, Yannick, do you have one more thing for Aaron?
Yeah, I want to talk about the long-term projection for the Vikings. Do you think they are currently set up well for the future with like Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, McCarthy all under contract for 4 or 5 more years? Or do you think they are somewhat in the middle of the league and still stuck in that range?
I mean, the answer is, what is McCarthy? Right? I mean, when you take a rookie quarterback, you hang a lot of your future quality on that rookie quarterback. And if you hit the lottery like Houston Texans with Stroud, then you are in a really good place. And if that quarterback is terrible, like Bryce Young was last year, you look like you're in a really, really bad place. So much depends on what is McCarthy. Is McCarthy a really good quarterback? Is he a really bad quarterback? Is he a middle of the road quarterback, like a Derek Carr type? Like, so much depends on that. If you want to look at the rest of the team, I mean, they got younger, certainly with pass rushing. That's nice. And I mean, Jefferson's the best receiver in the game. So it's good to have that. I'm not going to say something controversial about like, oh, is it good to have the best receiver in the game? Yes, that is good. That's a good thing going forward. But so much depends on what McCarthy is, and we just don't know. We just don't know what it'll be.
Do you agree with, I guess, somewhat recent sentiment that suggests that he'll be a total redshirt this year?
No. Because I don't think that the Vikings with Darnold become a serious wild card contender, which means by the time you get to late November, you're thinking, all right, it's time to see what he can do.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I think there's a chance that they start the year with him.
Wow. Okay.
And second of all, I think if it's Darnold, I think by the time you get into November, you're probably like, all right, we're 4-7, or even 5-6. You might feel like you're in the wild card race, but all right, it's Darnold's not blowing everyone away. Let's see what McCarthy can do. And that's what I expect in New England. That's what I expect in Minnesota as well.
Okay. And then based on your projection, do you think the Vikings are, with this current setup, going to be like 7-10 range, 8-9? That's what.
Yeah, I think probably like the 7-10 range is likely, and hopefully it's a 7-10 with the promise for the future. Hopefully McCarthy comes in, plays a few games, plays well, and you're like, there's real promise for the future here.
Yeah, 10 years ago when the Vikings had a rookie quarterback, that's exactly how that season felt, although Bridgewater played a lot. Nobody really cared that they had a losing season, fans-wise, because it was so fun to see him develop. And then 7-10 was like, sweet, let's be a springboard. And for the most part, it worked out pretty well. They won the division next year. All right, Aaron, if somebody wants to buy the Almanac, where do they find it?
Yes, you can go to ftnfantasy.com/almanac and make sure you look at everything we have, all kinds of stat tools, all kinds of projections, things to help you in fantasy, DFS, gambling, all kinds of things. And if you are an FTN subscriber, you get the Almanac at half price.
Okay.
If you want the print copy, the big print copy, you go to Amazon and search for FTN Football Almanac 2024.
Perfect. And then do you have any NFL-themed hot take you want to get off your chest before we say goodbye?
The New Orleans Saints are going to be better than people realize this year.
Oh, that is a hot take. So, is that you're based on your personal, like off the cuff, or is that from the metric? Oh, that's
the New Orleans Saints. Many people feel that the New Orleans Saints suck, and they do not. They are very average, mediocre, and boring. Which in that division with that schedule makes them a very mediocre and boring playoff team.
Okay. Yeah, that is a hot take. I appreciate that one. All right, Aaron, it was nice to meet you, sir. We hope that you'll come back and visit us. Anything else?
No, I mean, good luck. I mean, listen, good luck to not this season. Good luck with McCarthy. Good luck with McCarthy being good. That's more important. The more important thing, we went 9-8 with Sam Darnold at quarterback and won the third wild card. That's not what you want. You want McCarthy to come in for the last couple months and to look good. And if that happens, then you feel like you're really building the franchise for the future. So that's where I say good luck.
I would like to say we're very used to that 9-8 stuff, getting the third wild card. Thank you very much. We're not content with it, but it's in our DNA to know how that feels. All right, Aaron, we'll talk to you next time. And once again, we appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Take it easy, guys.
See you.